1.5 million objects. In 1897, the museum met growing demand by constructing new exhibit halls for visitors to explore. By 1900, more than 225,000 people visited the museum. The 19th century Smithsonian, like many museums facing a crisis, managed to emerge stronger, although the best methods to move forward were not always clear to historical actors at the time. When the institution opened a large and popular new natural history museum on the National Mall in spring 1910, the destructive fire 45 years earlier mostly served as a reminder to construct fireproof museum buildings. The history of museums in the United States, in no small part, is a story of crisis and response, death and rebirth, an evolution over time, guided by and responding to larger trends in U.S. and global society. A crisis, at least according to my handy Merriam-Webster dictionary, is an unstable or crucial time or state of affairs in which a decisive change is impending. We often think of a crisis as connected to impending doom rather than any sort of positive change. Think of expressions like financial crisis or energy crisis. But crisis is also linked to other kinds of change, such as a turning point for better or worse in an acute disease or fever, emphasis mine. A crisis in this way is more a moment of truth or an important crescendo than a dark path toward a certain calamity. Even returning to the basic concept of crisis, therefore, might help us to rethink the relationship between possible threats to and the basic function of museums as a space for preservation. The fires, floods, financial meltdowns, and calls for change connected to vocal protests have often been named as crisis situations for museums. This book asks what that really means and how museums might rethink these crisis stories more generally. If crises truly represent critical turning points for museums and other cultural institutions, should we not pay more attention to them as a historical phenomenon? At crisis moments, museums have often been forced to confront essential questions. What are our main priorities? Whom do museums serve? How do cultural institutions continue to survive with curtailed operations? What operations are deemed essential in times of reduced staffing and stripped-back expeditions and plans for collecting expeditions? How might museums use these moments of crisis more productively for reflection and improved access to serve larger communities? What about when the communities surrounding cultural institutions are themselves in crisis? How should a museum respond then? How might museums balance their varied roles in public education, research, and preservation? When examined in retrospect, have museums done everything they might do to prepare and respond to disasters and crises of various kinds? In part, these questions are about asking what a museum even is to begin with, what it has been at points during the past century, and what it should be moving forward. As a former museum professional and cultural historian interested in museum history, I have written this book to offer a version of the story of how museums have successfully and unsuccessfully navigated several major crisis moments in U.S. history. Along the way, and in the book's conclusion, I offer my interpretive assessment as to how museums faced these challenges and try to wrestle with these observations to offer potential ideas for museums, policymakers, and activists moving forward. I highlight how complex many of these challenges have been, and while this treatment of museum history does not offer easy answers, some clear trends about museums and crises do emerge. Crisis moments have not always been dealt with effectively or understood accurately in retrospect. Traditional museum leadership structures have not always proven adept at responding to unforeseen challenges. This is, in some sense, predictable. How can you possibly prepare for a challenge that you cannot yet foresee? Without enough distance and context, can we fully understand the events shaping museums and other cultural institutions? And yet examples in which more forward-thinking, collaborative, or creative solutions have been embraced stand out as providing important guides for helping us rethink museums today and in the future.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.